In 320 AD, Chandragupta I founded the Gupta Empire. His capital was at Pataliputra in present-day Bihar. He ushered in an age of well-being and prosperity, an age in which all aspects of culture flowered. One of the finest periods of mankind when great thinkers attained noble heights of achievement. The period of Gupta rule, known as a Golden Age, lasted up to the year 467 AD. Kalidasa, the greatest Sanskrit poet and playwright, lived during this period. So did the astronomer and mathematician Aryabhat, the first person to accurately calculate the solar year. Since early times, the philosophic belief was in the oneness of all that there is. The world of separated forms around us was considered to be an illusion. In the search for the truth, the veils of illusion had to be lifted so that we could see beyond. In the 1st century, deities in human form had been created in Indian art to provide a support to minds not prepared to comprehend the formless abstract. These deities were many, all different aspects of the one formless truth.
In India, we have always thought that there are multiple ways to get to the spiritual or the divine, and that divine, the Brahman, that is formless, actually can be worshipped also by symbols of images. So in that sense, deities are seen in their manifest form, in their physical form, as a way to connect to the divine that may be formless. But that is completely understood and accepted as part and parcel of how we look at image making and how we look at deities. Whereas for many, many Hindu gods, it's not like people think that there was a real God that was alive. We understand the mythology of God for something beyond just an everyday. So we don't get so concerned about the realistic notion of a God, but in fact we understand the symbolic value of the deity that gets us to a higher plane.
The human form had to be created, which rose above itself. It was not a human form caught in the web of the material world. It was an embodiment of that which was eternal, that which was still, undisturbed by turmoil and cravings. Meditating upon such a form, devotees awakened the best within themselves. They rose above the pains created by their own desires and confusion.
A kind of perfected and transformed, transfigured human body can suggest to us the profoundest and most important philosophical ideas.
Mathura on the banks of the river Yamuna in North India had been a great center of art since the Shunga period in the 1st and 2nd centuries BC. By the 1st century AD, some of the earliest images of Indic deities were made here out of the local red sandstone. By the 5th century, the figures had become slender, and there was a delicacy of treatment. A look of tranquility had come upon them. The garment was indicated by a series of folds, yet it did not hide the graceful body, which was the manifestation of the ideal state of being. the inward look upon the face perfectly expresses the rising of the spirit above the world of manifest reality.
Those Gupta pieces are so incredibly special, is that they embody the idea of spirituality and sensuousness, which is so unique to Indian art, where it is not simply about spirituality that is negating the body, but it is taking the body and moving to the spiritual dimension, which I think is really quite beautiful.
Mathura had long interacted with Sarnath on the banks of the Ganga. It was here that the Mathura tradition flowered. It was here that the form was created to express that which is the spiritual state of the Buddha, one who has left behind the turbulence of the material world. 3 standing Buddhas, one of AD 474 and 2 of AD 477, bring us the achievement of Sarnath. Behind lowered eyelids, the look is within. The mind is not disturbed by the illusions of the passing world. It is still. It is not the conquest of the world, but the conquest of the mind, which is the theme here. All that there is one, and it is to be found within, in the endless peace of the mind. Such an art is not concerned with outward ornamentation, and the apparel has all but disappeared. Even the folds of the garment are gone. The smooth planes of the body blend effortlessly. A form has been given to bliss itself. It is unmarred by the blemishes and imperfections of ordinary mortals. Inscriptions state that these were made beautiful through the science of Chitra, or art making. It is around this time that the Chitra Sutra, the oldest known treatise on art, was penned, out of traditions which were ongoing. In Indic art, the emphasis was never on individual problems and their solutions. The best and distilled knowledge of the finest minds was passed down and constantly modified. Canons guided the artist. Individual achievement and works of rare beauty were born out of the immediate experience of the artist, of the visualized reality itself.
When you look at a piece like this, that this is a cult image, an image which really expresses something spiritual, something sacred. And in that sense, I think there's nothing compared with Indian art.
A seated Buddha of this period is depicted preaching the first sermon at Sarnath. He is seated in a yogic posture of meditation, seen in Indic art from the time of the Indus Valley civilization. His hands are in the Dharma Chakra Pravartan Mudra, indicating that he is setting into motion the wheel of Dharma, or the law. The chakra or wheel is also seen below. So are deer, indicating that the setting is in the deer park at Sarnath. On both sides are made rampant leogryphs, symbolizing the regal roar and the authority of the Buddha's message. These became a constant feature in Buddhist art from this period. At Sanchi, new temples and additions were made in the Gupta period. 4 Buddha statues were placed at the entrances of the Great Stupa in the mid-5th century. As in other depictions of this period, the Enlightened One personifies an inner calm, where the noise and confusion of the material world fade away, where the armies of Mara have failed. In the first quarter of the 5th century, 20 rock-cut caves were carved out of the hill at Udaygiri, not very far from Sanchi. These are the earliest surviving Hindu temples. The temple was conceived as a home for the deity. We leave behind the mundane world to enter the peace and dark of the interior for the darshan. Looking upon the deity, who is made to convey the eternal concepts, we awaken the best within us. We are graced by the act of seeing the deity, that is darshan. It is a concept which is central to Indic thought and continues till today. It is only here at Udaygiri that we still see the context in which Hindu deities were created in the Gupta period. Though these are the earliest remains, it is clear that both iconographic and artistic concepts had been clearly formulated already. The most magnificent representation here is of the Narvaraha avatar of Vishnu, with the body of a man and the head of a boar. In this story, the Lord appeared in the form of a boar to save the earth goddess Bhudevi. All Indic religious myths are meant to operate at several levels. Besides the story of the rescue of the goddess from the waters, it is also the depiction of the saving of mankind from the ocean of ignorance. Majestic power is obvious in the form of the Varaha, who effortlessly lifts the earth goddess. The precariousness of her position emphasizes the drama of the moment. From the Gupta period onwards, the Varaha Avtara becomes one of the most popular themes in sculpture. On the right of the relief, Cave 6 presents an elaborate carved doorway. Dwarapalas, or guardians of the doorway, are made on both sides. Their muscular bodies and diaphanous garments display the early Gupta style. Ganesha, the elephant-headed deity, is made to our left as we approach the door, a feature we will see in Hindu temples to follow. Two representations of Vishnu are made on the facade. The one on the right has personifications of his attributes. The mace symbolizes the power of knowledge, and the chakra, or wheel, stands for the universal mind. The iconography of the Mahishasur Mardani was fully created by the 1st or 2nd century. She is Durga, destroying the demon buffalo or Mahisha. She has 12 arms which indicate her superhuman powers. An Ekmukh Linga, or one-faced linga, is enshrined in Cave 4. The simple treatment of the face and of the locks of hair place it in the early 5th century. The image portrays the unification of the creative energies of the world with the intellect. Halfway up the Udaygiri hill is a Jaina cave. It has a freestanding portico and has the appearance of a typical small Gupta period shrine. At Diogarh, near Jhansi in Uttar Pradesh, stands one of the earliest surviving Hindu temples. It is dedicated to Vishnu and is dated to about AD 500. The temple faces west and has an elaborate doorway. As compared to Udaigiri, the lintels and door jambs here have multiplied. There is a profusion of foliated designs, mithunas or loving couples and guardian figures. On three sides of the temple are niches which depict different avatars of Vishnu. On the south face is made the Anantasayana Vishnu, who reclines upon the serpent Shesha, which means remainder. The Lord's wife Lakshmi massages his feet, personifying the concept of bhakti, in which the devotee gives himself over in adoration of the divine. Below are made the demons Madhu and Ketabha, and the personified weapons of Vishnu, who keep the demons in check. On the north of the temple is the story of Gajendra Moksha. The Gajendra, or elephant, was seized by a serpent, and a tug of war continued between the two for 1,000 years. Finally, the elephant appealed to Vishnu, who saved him. It is the story of the misguided intellect, caught in the web of Maya, or illusion, till it is saved by true knowledge. These deities are reflections of the peace, the joy, the sublime stillness which we can find within us. They are aids to our journey within.
I think that one can see these things in the world around one if one knows where to look. It's a matter of looking, I don't want to use a cliche, but it's a matter of looking with the inner eye as well as with the purely physical eye. That after all, if you hear a beautiful piece of music, it will move one in the same way. It plugs one in, as it were, to this world of the spirit, the world of exaltation.
Large numbers of brick temples were made in the Gupta period. Owing to the fragile nature of the material, almost all of them have been destroyed by the passage of time. The sculptural decoration of these temples was carried out in terracotta. This life-sized Ganga from the Shiva temple at Ahichatra in Uttar Pradesh is a fine example of such sculpture. The sublime forms made in the Gupta period are created out of devotion and a stillness of the mind. The desire or the ambition to create a great work of art is tempered always by the understanding that this too is, after all, a leela, a dynamic play of the world of illusion. It is not just the works of art which are ephemeral. The deities too are but a path towards the truth. They prepare us and bring us a little closer to being able to comprehend the truth, which is finally of the oneness of all that there is. It is beyond form.